Everyone. In the previous sessions, we learned about user input controls like checkbox, radio buttons, um, and all, spinner, okay, toggle buttons, switches, and all. So now see one of the text input. Okay, so there is a class called edit text class where if we use edit text class, okay, the user can input, okay, like textual characters or numbers or any symbols, where this edit text class extends the text view class. Okay, so why it extends text view class means to make the text view editable, where so that the text view can be editable. So how to customize the edit text or how to enable the multiple lines? Okay, by default, okay, by default, the edit text view allows you to multiple lines. Okay, multiple by default the edit text view, what the edit text view will be using in the layout, so that will enable you to allow multiple lines of inputs. Okay, multiple lines of inputs, or it can be of multiple lines of inputs, or spelling corrections can be suggested. So if you want to create the edit text view, okay, if you want to create the edit text view, so in the XML layout we need to use the edit text. Okay, see here in this figure it shows that you can enter the multiple lines when we use an edit text view. So, and also it allows you to tapping the return key. It allows you to tapping the return key in the on-screen keyboard. What the on-screen keyboard we will be getting. So if you tap the return key, it ends the line. Okay, and also it can start the new line in the same edit text view. So return key means whatever the enter options you will be having on your on-screen keyboard. So next, if you want to enable return to advance the next view, okay. So if you add the attribute that is input type, okay, if you add the attribute input type for the edit text view, where it takes the values like text cap characters or text autocomplete, so that you can tapping the return key chooses the on-screen keyboard and advances the focus to next view. So it means that if you use the attribute input type, so for that input type attribute you can give the values like characters or autocomplete. It means that, so if you use the value text cap characters means, so whatever the words or the characters you will be entering in the edit text, so that will be converted to the capital character. So or you can come auto complete. So if you press return key, it will be auto completing and it focus to the next view. Okay, so and also you can customize the edit text, whatever the edit text has been used, you can customize with the edit text with the attributes. Okay, you can use attributes to customize the edit text view, whatever the input you will be giving. So some of the attributes you can use is and max lines. If you give the value for the max line attribute as in 1, so it sets the text entry to show only one line. So if you, the maximum line will be only one. If you set this to the maximum line as a max lines attributes for the 1, so it sets to the only one line. Okay, so and one more attribute is lines. Okay, if you set the value for the attribute lines as a 2, so it makes to entry, or it makes you to set the text entry to show two lines. Okay, so it makes you to show the text entry lines as a 2 lines. And if you use the attribute max length 5, okay, if you use the attribute max length 5, so it allows you to input characters to be 5. Maximum number of input characters will be 5, so that it will be set to the 5 if you use the value 5 for the attribute max length. Okay, so if you use the attribute input type, okay, if you use the attribute input type number, so that whatever the input you are going to enter to that particular edit text view, it will be only the numbers. It means it restricts the text entry to only for the numbers. And if you use the attribute digits. Okay, if you use the attribute digits with the value 0, 1, so that particular edit text view, it restricts the digits so that you can enter only 0 and 1. Okay, so 0 and 1. So if you use the attribute text color highlight, okay, so text color highlight, whatever the value for the color you will be using, whatever the value you will be using for this particular attribute, so it sets the background color for the selected text. Whatever the selected text will be there, it will be set for the background color. Okay, so if you use int, whatever okay, int attribute, for that you will be using the value for this particular attribute, so that the text appears in that field provides a hint for the users. For example, you will be having an edit text view, so that the hint will be email ID. So it means it understood for the user so that they should enter the email ID. That is the hint purpose. So next is getting users inputs. Okay, getting users input. How to get the users inputs? So we need to enable the user to input text its own, so that we can use the text in our app. So okay, so if you want to use the input, so if you want to use the input, so we must first get the edit text view in the XML layout. Okay, so if the user wants to give an input, or we need if the developer wants to use the input in our any applications, so first we need to get the edit text view in the XML layout. So in the XML layout, we will be using an edit text view. So how to get that edit text view? So we need to follow the steps. So okay, we need the steps we follow to set up the edit text view, and we need to set up the edit text view, and also we need to get user inputs from it. Okay, so whatever the setup we have done for the edit text view, so from that edit text view we need to get the user input from that edit text view. So we need to follow the step. So first step is we need to create edit text view element in the XML layout. So first initial step, what we need to do, we need to create a edit text view element. Okay, we need to use or create a edit text view element in our XML layout. Okay, so when we used it, we need to be sure that, so we need to make sure that how to identify that particular element. Okay, that is element is edit text view element. So for that, there is an attribute called ID attribute. So for that ID attribute, you need to specify the ID. So through this ID, we can refer it. So through the ID attribute, we can refer the edit text view, or we can get the input from the user. So next step. So in Java code, for the same activity, so in the same activity in the Java code, so we need to create a method. Okay, we need to create. So as I said, we will be getting the edit text view element through the ID attributes. How we are going to identify those ID attribute for the edit text view element? So that we need to create a method, a view parameter. Okay, we need to create a method view parameter, so that it gets the edit text object, so that it can text the edit text object. So this edit text object is created for the edit text view. Or it means whatever the edit text view we have been used in the layout, for that we will be creating an object. So we need to find that edit text view. So whatever the ID attribute we will be using, we need to find that edit text view. So we need to use a method, find view by ID method. Okay, find view by ID method. So it is going to find the edit text view element by its ID. Whatever the ID has been used, through that ID, we are going to find that particular element. So how to use that? So edit text, for the edit text, we are creating an object. Okay, if we're creating an object, so we are going to identify that edit text element. So through method find view by ID. So r dot, that is resource dot ID. So through the, so for this particular edit text element, we are going to identify through the ID. So whatever the ID is being given here, we need to enter this particular ID. Okay, by this method, we are going to identify, we are going to find the edit text view. So third step is we need to use get text method. So we have first we have created an element, edit text element, edit text view element. So and then we have given a proper naming for that particular element through the ID attribute. So after giving the proper naming to the ID attribute, we are going to create a method and we are going to find that edit text element through the method find view by ID. So after finding that, so if the user enters any text, how we are going to get that? Okay, for that we need to use a method get text method. So where this method is from the edit text class. So there is a class called, as I said, there is a class called edit text. So in this class there is a method get text. We need to use this particular get text method, so that if we use this get text method, so that we can obtain the text as a character sequence. Okay, we can get the text, whatever the text has been entered in the edit text, we can get those characters text as a character sequence by using the method get text. How to use that? We need to have an object for the string, that is a string shows this is the name of this particular string. So where you are going to get the text, from where you are going to get the text? So through the edit text, that is edit text dot get text. Okay, through this method we are going to obtain the whatever the text has been entered, obtain the text as a character sequence. So then we have used dot toStrings. Okay, for that we need to convert the character sequence, whatever the character sequence we will be getting from the edit text, we need to convert that character sequence into a string. Okay, we need to convert the character sequence into a string. So to convert that character sequence into a string, so we need to use a method toString. Okay, we need to use a method toString, where these the toString method will be there in the character sequence class. So there is a class called character sequence. So in that class there is a method toString. So we need to use that. For that, so if you use this toString method, so it returns strings representing the data in the character sequence. Whatever the data is present in the character sequence, it is going to return as a string by using the method toString. Okay, so this is how we need to get the user's input from the edit text. So next is changing the keyboard and input behaviors. If they want to change the in our app, if you want to change keyboard or the any input behaviors. Okay, so how to do that? So by default, the Android system shows the on-screen keyboard where the text field with the UI receives the focus. Okay, so if you want to provide the best experience for the users, we can specify characteristics. Okay, we can specify the characteristics about what type of inputs to be expects. Okay, like such as whether we need to have a phone number only, or we need to enter the email address, and also you can also specify how the input method will be. Okay, we can also specify how the input method should behave, whatever the input method we are giving, how the input method should behave, such as whether you want to have a spelling suggestions, or you want to provide the capital letters for the beginning of the sentence, for the beginning of the word, if you want to specify that a capital letter, or you want any spelling corrections. Okay, and you can also change the input method to the numeric keypad. Okay, likewise, if numeric keypad means if you want to enter only the phone number or phone number. See, for example, in your Android device, there is a dialer app, phone app. So if you click on the phone app, so it will show only the number keypad only. That is numeric keypad only. So likewise, if you want to change like that. Okay. So here, if you want to have a specific type of keyboard entries, so if you want to have a specific type of keyboard entries or any other applications, this Android, what the Android Studio will be, provides a framework, okay, for the advanced programmer. So this framework to be developed and installed there on their own. Okay, that is IME, input method editors, for the speech text. Okay, for the speech text, we need to develop and install their own, that is IME, input method editors. So we need to declare a input method by adding. So how we need to declare the input method? So we need to declare the input method by adding an attribute input type. Okay, what type of input to be there for the particular edit text view. So for example, so following, if here we have set the input type to phone. Okay, we have set the input type to phone. So it shows the on-screen keyboard will be of only a phone keypad. That is, only a numbers will be displayed if you use the value phone for the attribute input type. Okay, so for the input type attributes, we can have the following values. For this particular habits attribute, input type attribute, we can have the following values. So if you use the value for, as text cap sequences, so text cap sequences, so it sets the keyboard to capital letters at the beginning of the sentences. Okay, so if you use the value text cap sequences for the input type attribute, so it sets the keyboard to capital letters. So okay, it sets the keyboard to capital letters at the beginning of the sentences will be the capital letter. Okay, so if you use the value text autocorrect, okay, so if you use the value text autocorrect, so it enables the spelling suggestions. So as soon as the user types any word, so it gives a suggestions, correct word suggestions will be given. That is, a spelling suggestions will be given if you use the value text autocorrect. So if you use the value text password, okay, if you use the value text password, so for the attribute input type, so yeah, if the user enters the password, it means whatever the password will be entered by the user, it will be shown as a dot. Only dots will be shown, the characters will not be shown if you use the value text password. So one more value, that is text email address. Okay, so this will be used only when you are entering an email. So shows the email keyboard at symbol conveniently located next to the space key. See, for example, when you are entering an email, so there will be an on-screen keyboard in the Android device. So there is an @ symbol, so that it will be convenient for the users. The @ symbol will be shown beside the space symbol. You can observe over the keyboard when you are entering an email. So next, if you specify the value phone for the input type, as I said, so phone number entry, that is numeric phone keypad, will be displayed. So in the input type attribute, you can have a two values also with the pipeline symbol. Okay, like if you want your keyboard to be both the, for example, if you want both the text cap sequences and autocorrect, it means that beginning of the sentences should be capital also, and we should have a spelling suggestion also. Then you can use both the values for the input type attribute. So next is how to change the action key in the keyboard. Okay, how to change the action key in the keyboard. So in Android devices, action key is the written key. So action key in Android device, action key will be of a written key. So where this key is normally used to enter the another line of a text for an edit text element that allows multiple lines. So if in the chat application, for example, if you consider a WhatsApp application, you are sending a message, so it will be of a one or more line. So if you type one line, if you have typed only 3 words and you want to go for a next line, if you enter the written key in your on-screen keyboard, then it will go for the next line. That is, normally it will be there. Okay, so if you set the input type attribute for the edit text view with the values such as these two values, if you specify, the written key closes the on-screen keyboard and advances focus to the next view. So it means if you have done with the thing, so then you want to go for a next, if you want to focus the next view, then you can use the written key so that it can closes the on-screen keyboard and it focus to the next view. And if you want the user to enter something other than the text, okay, so if you want the user to enter the other than the text, such as phone number, we may want to change the action key. So we can change the action key for a send key, so that the change actions to be dialing a phone number. Okay, so how to do that? Let's see with the steps. So we need to follow the steps. The first step is we need to use an input type attribute, so that the value should be the phone, so that it sets the keyboard type to the numeric keyboard type. Numeric phone keyboard will be set. So where we need to use in the edit text view, we need to use the particular attribute. So next step, second step is So we need to use on set editor action listener. Okay, we need to use on set. So we need to use set on editor action listener. Why this method will be used? To set the listener for the edit text view, so it responds to the use of action key. Okay, so when you are done with the edit text in the XML layout, then we need to find it by the find view by ID method. So for this particular edit text, we need to set, okay, for this particular method we need to use, for this particular edit text we will be using set on editor action list. Okay, so if we use this method, it sets the listener that for the edit text view, so that it responds to the user action key, whatever the action key has been specified, it responds. So what it should be done, we can write on editor action method within the particular set on editor action listener method. So next is we need step 3. Okay, so here we need to use a constant. Okay, that is IME underscore action send. Okay, so IME underscore action underscore send, where this constant is present. Okay, this constant will be there in the class called editor info. Okay, so this is for action ID, so that send key as an action key. So whatever the key will be there, it acts as a send key. So, and also it creates a method to respond threads with send key. Okay, so for that, see whatever, so here in the step 2 we have set the listener for the edit text view. So edit text view, what the edit characters has been given, we need to listen for that characters. Okay, so within that what it has to be performed. Okay, this is the overridden method. Okay, so in the step 2 is continuation of step 3, that is on editor action. So here we need to initially declare the boolean as a false, that is handled as a false. So here the action ID, so for the action ID, so there is a constant IME underscore action underscore send in the class editor info. So editor info dot IME underscore action underscore send. So within that dial number handle to be true, and we need to return that handle. This is how we need to have a send key as an action key. So action key can be performed as a send also. So by using this, so that it will be display the numbers. So next is, that is about the text input. Now we will see about dialogs and pickers. So what is this dialogs? So dialog is a window that appears on top of the display or fills the display, or it may interact our flow of activity. See, it means that, see for example, see in this example it has been shown. So use Google's location service. So we need to agree or disagree. So when you are open a Google map, so in your device, if you have not enabled the location, it will ask for a dialog. That is, you need to enable the location, okay or cancel, likewise. So that is about the dialog. So there are some of the examples here in the display, in the images has been given that if you want to discard any options, so it will display a dialog, that is discard. It may cancel or discard. So when you want to set up a backup account, or if you want to set up a use an account for something, so it will show this like this. So you can select any one of this, or you can add in like this. So that's an example. So here the dialog informs. So what this dialog will be do? So dialog will be informs the users about specific task, or may contain a critical information, or it should be require any decisions, or involve you can have a multiple tasks. So by this dialog we can perform some of the specific tasks, so that the what task to be performed will be informed to the users if we use dialogs. So the base class for all dialog components is dialog. So there is a class called dialog, where this dialog is a base class. So whatever the dialog you will be using, the dialog, this dialog class will be the base class. Okay. So there may be several dialog subclasses. So in this dialog class, there will be so many subclasses. Okay, so like why the so many subclasses? Like for altering the user on a condition. Okay, altering the user for a condition, or showing status or progress, or if you want to show any status or the progress, or if you want to display information on a secondary device, or you want to select or confirm any choices. Okay, you want to select or confirm any choices. So for this, the Android SDK also provides ready to use dialog subclasses. Okay, so in Android SDK, so there are some of the default dialogues will be there, so such as pickers. Okay, where you can pick a date or time. Okay, you can pick a date or time. So as shown in this figure, see, for example, in the settings you want to change the ringtone. Okay, if you want to change the ringtone, so if you open that, so it will show a dialog where you can select whatever the tone you want to do. Okay, you want to select the as a ringtone. So this is one of a dialog. So and in Android, so there is a subclass in the dialog. We call it as a pickers. Okay, that is pickers. So this is the, so this figure shows about the pickers. See, for example, if you want to select a date or if you want to select a time, so both the date and time, if you select, that will be of a subclass of pickers. Picker. So where this pickers allows us to enter information where the information will be of a predetermined consistent format where it reduces the errors. Okay, it reduces the, if you in the, if you use pickers, if you select any date, so that date will be picked properly, there will be no any errors. Okay, so whatever the dialogue will be there, so dialogue always remains focused until it is disseminated or required action to be taken. So if you won't select anything, that will be of a focused way only. Okay, so the dialogue class is a base class for dialogues. Okay, dialogue class is a base class, whatever the dialogues will be using. So for all the dialogues, the base class will be of a dialogue class. So but we need to avoid instantiating dialog class directly unless we create a custom dialog. Okay, okay, unless we need create a custom dialog, so we need to avoid dialog directly. Also for the standard Android dialogs, Android dialogs, we can use one of the following subclasses. So there are two subclasses, that is alert dialog or date picker dialog or time picker dialog. Let's see this one by one, how to use, okay, how to set and all. So showing an alert dialog. See, first one is alert dialog. That is how to show this alert dialog. So if you want any alerts to be have an urgent interruptions, or if you want to have an acknowledgement, or if you want to perform an action, so that it should be informed to the user. In such situations, the user should know what to be done. So that can be done, okay, through this alert dialog or an action before it occurs. Okay, so use. So we need to use alert dialog subclasses of a dialog class so that it shows a standard dialog alert. So that it shows a standard dialog alert. So as I said, the users want to know about the situations. Like, see, for example, if you want to any discard that particular thing, it should show an alert box. Or if you want to delete, it show an alert box. Or if you want to accept anything, so it should show an alert. Okay, likewise. So for that, we need to use an subclass called alert dialog, where the subclass is for the of the dialog class, so that it shows a standard dialog for an alert. So where this alert dialog class, so whatever the alert dialog class will be used, so that alert dialog class allows us to build variety of dialog designs. Okay, by this class we can have an build a variety of dialog designs. Okay, so an alert dialog can have the following reasons. So once if you use an alert dialog, so it may have a following regions. In that dialog box, what are all the regions will be there? So as in this figure mentioned, there are three regions: title, content area, action buttons. So where this particular title is optional. So if it is required for your particular application, if whatever the application we are designing, if the title is required in that particular dialog, so then we need to specify. Otherwise, there is no need to specify the title. It means that title is optional. So next is content area. So next is content area. So content area is to display a message, or there is a list or any custom layout. So when the dialog opens up in our activity, so what is the dialog box? The user should know it. Okay. So for example, if you are accepting anything, so then it should have a list of agreements or any license to be shown, that should be shown. Or if you are making an cancel or deleting, so it should show a content, that is you are deleting this message, delete 5. If you are selected 5 messages, if you want to delete it, it shows in dialog, that is delete 5 messages permanently. So likewise, that is a content area. So next is action buttons. So next is action buttons. See, as I said, as an example, that if you are selected 5 messages, if you click on the delete, it shows delete 5 messages, and there will be two options will be there: cancel and delete. So cancel and delete, two options are the action buttons. It means it is going to perform an action. That is about action buttons. The next is how to build the alert dialog. Okay, so how to build the alert dialog. So alert dialog dot builder. Okay, so alert dialog dot builder, it's a class. So it uses builder design pattern. So this alert dialog dot builder class uses builder design pattern. So it makes, so if you use this pattern, it makes easy to create an object. Okay, so it makes easy to create an object from the class. See, for without its pattern. Okay, so optional attributes will be, so if you use this the builder design pattern, okay, the lot of required and the optional attributes, and if you have require a lot of parameters to be done, can be done. So without this pattern, so without this builder design pattern, we would have create constructors, okay, of required and optional attribute should be used. So if you use this pattern, the code will be easier to read and maintain. Okay, if you use this particular builder design pattern, so where that is alert dialog dot builder class, so code will be easier to read and maintain. So for that, so we need to use alert dialog dot builder. So we need to use for this, if you use this pattern builder dialog builder design pattern, so we need to use alert builder dialog dot builder. So if you use this alert dialog dot builder, so to build a standard alert dialog and set attributes on the dialog. So whatever the alert dialog, standard alert dialog we will be building, so for that we need to set the attributes on that particular dialog. Okay, so we need to use set title. Okay, we need to use set title to set the title, or we need to use set message to set the message. We need to use set positive button, set negative button to set the buttons. So as I said in the previous, here there will be a three options. So that is title, message and action buttons. For this, how we need to set through the methods: set title method, set message method, set positive button, set negative method buttons. So how to use this? So we need to have a following, we need to create following creates all this thing. So the dialog object, that is my builder, to set the title, that is alert title, to set the message, alert message. So this is an example code where alert dialog dot builder, for that we are creating an object. So here new, it should have a from which activity you want to show the dialog. Okay, so whether it is a main activity, or if you have any other activity in your app, on which activity it is to show the dialog box. So here we are passing an argument, that is main activity dot this. It's a context of that particular activity. So if you want to set the title for this particular class, you need to use the object my alert builder dot set a title, and we need to pass the resource. So it is string alert. So likewise for the message also. So next is setting the button actions for the alert dialog. Setting the buttons for the alert dialog. So as I said, we need to set the button through the, if we use set positive button and set negative button, where these two methods are from the alert dialog dot builder class, where these two will be used to set the buttons as an actions. So these method require a title for the button. Okay, so whatever the buttons we will use, simply if you give the buttons like delete and cancel, what it means, what that button is, what you are doing, we need to mention that. This method requires a title. So and dialog interface dot on click listener class, it means whatever the button we will be using, if you click on button, what happens, what it should be listening, what it has to do. So for that we need to use a class dialog interface dot on click listener, where this class defines the action to take when the user presses the button. It means when the user presses that button, what action to be taken, what action to be, we need to define this in this class. So my builder dot set positive button, if you set positive means okay, dialog interface dot on click listener, so it overrides the on click method. So you need, so user clicked okay button, so you need to have a condition. So if you use my alert builder dot set negative button, so that is cancel option. So and we need to define the class dialog interface dot on click listener, and we need to override the on click method. What happens if you click on that? So if you click OK, what should be happen? If you click OK, if you click cancel, what should be happen? So and we need to remember here that only one of the each button type of alert. Okay. So it means that you can have, see, if you have specified one set positive button, or if you specified one set negative button, so that is only once it should be defined. So it means that you cannot use this set positive button two times, or you cannot use set negative button two times. So you can have only one time. So if you use set positive button, you can have only one time. If you use set negative button, you can have only one time. There will be no multiple methods of same methods. And one more method is there, set neutral button. Okay, set neutral button, where this neutral button will be between the positive button and the negative button. So it means that when to use this neutral button, okay, when to use this set neutral button method. See, for example, you want to use it later, so that means you want to cancel right now, you don't want to see it and you want to see it later. So in these cases, like for example, remind me later. So whenever you have a case that you want to remind me later, in those cases you can use the method set neutral button. Okay. So after doing all this, we need to display or we need to show that particular dialog to the users. Okay. So how to do that? We need to use a method show method. So alert dialog dot show. This is about the alert dialog. Okay, alert dialog subclass. So next is date and time pickers. Okay, so next is data time pickers. So Android provides the ready to use dialogs, the built-in dialogs called the pickers. As I said, the Android provides built-in dialogs, that is ready to use dialogs called the pickers. These pickers will be used for picking a time or a date. Okay, for picking the time or a date. So if we use these pickers, so users can be ensured that it has selected valid time or a date, whatever the format is corrected. So it means that the user has selected particular date and time correctly. So each picker provides controls, whatever the picker will be used. So each picker provides control for selecting each part, that is time or a date. So as you see in this example, so if you use picker, so if you want to select the particular date, so it's selecting the correctly. So if you want to select particular date, it means selecting each part correctly. So when showing a picker, we should use instance. Okay, when we are showing the picker to the user, we should use an instance, that is dialog fragment. Okay, we should use an instance dialog fragment. So this dialog for fragment class is a subclass of fragment class. So fragment class is a base class, where this this dialog fragment class is a subclass of a fragment class, where which displays dialog window floating on top of its window, activity window. Whatever the activity window you will be having on that, the dialog will be floating on the top of that particular activity. So what is this fragment? So fragment is a portion of a user interface within an activity. So it's a portion or a behavior of a UI within that particular activity. It means that it's like a mini activity. So you have a main activity, you want to pick a date. So it shows a picker. So it's a mini activity, where this mini activity have its own life cycle. Okay, it's having each picker is a mini activity. So each fragment is a mini activity, where this fragment will be having its own individual life cycle. So fragment will be receiving its input events, and it can add or remove main activity which is running. Okay, so how to add this fragment? So I said that we should be having a fragment to have a to show the picker and all. So if you want to show the picker, we should have an instance. So that instance will be of a fragment class. So with dialog fragment class, which is a subclass of fragment. So how to add that fragment? Okay, so if you want to add a fragment for the date picker, we need to create a blank fragment. Okay, without the XML layout and without any factory methods or an interface callbacks. Okay, we need to create. So like, we'll just show you how to create it. So you have this. So here in the app, you will be having a Java. So in the app, you will be having a Java folder. Within that, you will be having a package. So there you need to select the main activity. There you need to select the main activity. Then you go for a file. Then you select new. So in the new, there is a fragment option over here. So here you need to select the fragment blank. Okay, you need to select the fragment blank. So you need to configure, you give the fragment name properly, and you should not have any layouts. Then click finish. You will be creating with the fragment class. So you will be creating with the see here, black fragment has been created. See here, black fragment has created. So what we need to do here, let's see that. So what we need to do is, let's see. So extending dialog fragment for a picker, how we need to extend, how we need to edit, how we need to use. Okay, so the next step is to create standard picker with the listener. Okay, we need to create a standard picker. So if you want to create a standard picker, we need to follow the step. So first step is to edit date picker format class definition. So what we have, so as I shown in the Android Studio, we have created the fragment. So that is picker fragment class definition. So there you need to extend dialog fragment. So in that you need in that class. So in that class means date picker fragment class. We need to extend the dialog fragment, and also we need to implement date picker dialog dot on date set listener. So to create a standard date picker, what we need to do, we need to extend dialog fragment for the class date picker fragment, and we need to implement date picker dialog dot on date set listener. So this is how it is. Okay, class date picker fragment extends dialog fragment and implements this particular date picker dialog dot on date set listener. So second, so where once you use this, the Android Studio automatically adds the input, okay, for the particular block, okay, for the particular block, that is, it will be importing the for the particular what the classes you have, or the what the interfaces have you have been we have been used. So on Android, or Android Studio also shows a red light bulb icon. Android Studio also shows a red light bulb icon in the left margin, promoting you to implement methods. So that is click icon on date set already selected, and insert override option checked. Click OK, create empty on day set. So it means that if you have used this particular class and interfaces, the Android Studio shows and highlight that you need to create a method. Okay, you need to create a method, that is on date set method. So then after that you need to replace on create view with on create dialog. So you need to override the on create dialog, then the on create view. So when you extend this dialog fragment, okay, when you extend this dialog fragment, we should override on create method. That's why, so when you are using an dialog fragment class, we need to use the on create dialog method rather than the on create view. That's why we will be replacing with replace the on create view with the on create dialog. So next is setting the defaults and returning the picker. So how we need to set the default, how we need to return the picker. To set the default date in the picker and to return the object, we need to follow the step. First step is to add the following code on the create dialog. So as I said, so after following these steps within the on create dialog, so within the on create dialog, so remember that within the on create dialog method, we need to add the following code. Okay, so if you add the following code to set the default date for the picker, it sets the default date for the picker. So remember, if you use this particular code, so it sets the where we need to use this particular code within the on create method. So where this on create method will be there, so within this particular class, date picker fragment class. So this particular method on create will be there. Okay, so that is final calendar. See, the calendar class is a final class. Okay, final. So get instance, so int year month date, so we need to get the current year month and date from the calendar, so that the calendar dot get instances, what will do, it will get the current year, current month and current day of that particular month. So as soon as you use the calendar class will be imported. So this calendar class sets the default date as a current date. So it sets the default date as a current date. So next step is to add the following statement to end of the method to create new instances of the date picker and return. So after you done that, you need to pick that, you need to return that value. How we are going to return? Through the new instance you can return. So return new date picker dialog get activity. From that activity you should get this year, month and day. If you follow this, it will return the picker date. So how to show the picker? So showing the picker. So in the main activity, you need to create a method so that it should show the date picker. Okay, so date picker can be shown for the particular activity. So for that, how to show that picker, we need to follow the steps. So first step is to create a method to instantiate date picker dialog fragment. Okay, we need to instantiate the date picker of the particular dialog fragment. So we need to use a method show date picker dialog. So here we need to instantiate dialog fragment or the object of the dialog fragment. So new whatever the dialog fragment has been created, we need to show that is there is a method show get support fragment manager date picker. So next step, we need to use show date picker dialog, show date picker dialog. So what is this, how you have got this method? So you need to specify this method in an attribute on click attribute for the button of the input control. So if you click that button, see for example, you have an application where you need to select a date. If you click on that date, the dialog will be shown. How it will be enabled? So in that particular attribute on click attribute, you need to mention here the method name. So if you get error, alt enter in Android Studio, the particular method will be created. Within that method, okay, so within that method you can have you can create a method of a instance and you can instantiate that particular method. After that, you need to process the user picker. See, for example, you have selected your date of birth. How we need to process that date? So by default, it will be showing the default date, that is year, month, and date. The default date means whatever the date it will be showing on your Android device. So you want to select your date of birth. How it has to be processed? So for example, you have selected your date of birth. So maybe of 1999, 2000, and particular date and month. So how we need to process that data? So there is an on date set method is automatically called when users make a selection in the date picker. So in the date picker, if the user make a selection of any particular date, so that particular picker will call, the Android will call automatically on date set method. So here we need to do some method. So we can use this method to do something with the chosen date. So whatever the date has been chosen, in this method we need to do the actions. So first step is to make the code readable, we need to change the on date set. So first step, so initially when you use this method on date set, here it will be int i1, i2, i3, something will be there. So there we need to change it to year, month, and date so that the developer can easily understood what it is, okay, what the particular method shows. So just we need to change the parameters of the on date set, okay. So that is have been shown here. So next step 2 is we need to open main activity. Okay, we need to open main activity and we need to create a method process date picker result. Okay, we need to create a method process date picker result and we need to have a parameters year, month, and day. Okay, year, month, and day. So this method is created in main activity. So this will be of picker fragment class what we have created, what the fragment we have been created. In that we need to change the parameter that is on date set. So this method will be created, okay, or added in the main activity. So for this particular method, we need to add this codes. Okay, we need to add 3 lines of code. So as a string name integer dot to string month plus 1. Why this plus 1 I will tell you. So next is day and year. So it is to string date to string year. So this plus 1 is, so the month integer, so the month, whatever the month will be using, that month return the date picker where it starts the counting from 0. Okay, where it starts the counting from 0, where the January will be of 0. Okay, the January will be 0. So that's why plus 1 has been added, where it has to start show month starting at 1. So next, fourth step is to add. So we need to add this so that you can concatenate 3 strings. So whatever the string you have been mentioned in this particular method, we need to concat this 3 string because we need to get in a proper format. Like we need to get the proper format of the date. So that we need to concatenate all this. We need to concatenate all these strings. Set string date message month, whatever you have been used string here, month slash within a double quote slash plus day plus slash plus year string. Okay, this plus will be concatenating month, date, and year. So this format is of US format, or if you want to change any format, or if you want to have an hyphen, or if you want to first day, you specify the day first and then month here. Okay. So after this, we need to add a toast. Okay, we need to add a toast. It means toast make text in that particular context, that is this a message what you want to toast within the double quotes you need to message plus date message toast len dot show. So date colon whatever the date you have been picked, so that will be displayed as a toast message. So next sixth step is to you need to extract the hard coded string date into a string resource name. Okay, so this hard coded string can be done replaced with the get string. Okay, we need to replace with the get string. So whatever the code we have been used in the method process date picker result. Okay, so that method will be look like this. Okay, so whatever the steps previous steps have been shown from here from step 2 to step 4, how it will be from step 2 to still step 5. So this is how it looks the method. So this method will be specified or added in the main activity dot java. So as I said, to process the month, year, and date, and we need to concatenate that, and we need to toast. So next, step 7. So after doing this code in the main activity, then we need to go back to the date picker fragment. What we have fragment has been created. In that we need to add this following code. We need to add this following code where, as I mentioned in the step 1. So as I mentioned in the step 1, that is on date set method, we need to have the following method. We need to have the following code in this particular method. That is main activity. So we need to get that particular activity and we need to process that. So whatever the method you have been created, we need to have it here so that it can display year, month, and day. So this is about processing the user picker choice. Next is time picker. So how to time picker? As I said, the date picker will be same method to be followed in the time picker also. There we are selecting a date, here we are selecting a time. Okay, so for that we need to follow the procedures same as the date picker what I have been explained now. So first step, we need to add a black fragment, that is time picker fragment that extends the dialog fragment. Okay, so same wise you need to have a time picker fragment where whatever the time picker fragment is going to extend the dialog fragment class and also implements the interface time picker dialog dot on time set listener. So same as date picker. Okay, so next you need to add or override a method on time set where this method will be of a blank. So if you use this method, it will be importing this particular class. So Android so that is on type set method will be overridden. So next is step 3. So that is on create dialog. So you need to use on create dialog method to why to use this method to initialize the time and it should return a dialog. So as we mentioned in the date, that is month, year, and date. So here also we need to use calendar dot get instance hour and minutes. We need to get the hour and we need to get the minutes in time. So this is used, these 3 lines is used to current time as a default value for the picker. So in that we need to create a instances. So as I said, in the date picker we need to create an instance. Here also we need to create an instance of time picker dialog and we need to return it. So return time picker dialog from that particular activity, that is that particular context, hour, minutes, So date format is 24. If it is 24 hours format, there is particular method. So we need to pass the parameter as get activity method for the particular date format class. So next is step 4. So we need to show the picker here. Okay, we need to show the picker. So for that, we should, so till here, what the steps has been performed. So till here, what the steps has been performed, that will be performed within the date picker fragment, what we have been created. So in the step 4, we need to perform in main activity.java. So in the, we need to open the main activity.java, and we need to have create a method. Okay, we need to create a method to instantiate the dialog fragment, that is date picker dialog fragment. So this is the code we need to use. Show date picker dialog. So how this method came into existence? So there you need to have a button in the layout. There you need to use an on-click attribute where you will be specifying this method. So when you don't have a particular method, it will show in a red color. So if you click Alt Enter, so this particular method is created in main activity. So here we need to use this code. So we need to show that particular picker in that particular activity. So where we need to show that picker in that activity, you need to have a button and a method. Okay. So next is step 5. We need to create process time picker result. After showing that picker, we need to process it. Okay. So that will be done in the main activity. That will be done. The code will be written in the main activity. So public void process time picker result. We need to have a parameter hour and minutes. So these two lines convert the elements into string. These two lines, that is string hours, hour and minute, that will convert the time elements to the string. So then we need to show a toast. After picking that, you need to, after processing that result, you need to toast a message. So next step 6 is to use on time set method. Okay, on time set method is used to get the time. Okay, it is used to get the time, and we need to pass this to the process picker result method in main. We need to pass this to the main activity. Okay, so this code will be written in dialog time picker fragment. Okay, time picker fragment. So these two code will be written in main activity.java. So here we need to process here activity.process time hour and minute. This is about the text input and the dialogs and the thing. Okay, have you guys understood?